Welcome back to Mo's Unapologetic Reads. I hope that you're doing well. I know there is a lot going on, as there usually is, but this is just a different, if you know, you know, this is just a different level of things going on. Things are going on in my life as well, which has contributed to my delay in uploading. So thank you for bearing with me and coming back to hear your girl talk. um, so today I wanted to catch you all up on what I read for the months of January and February. I'll lead with overall, I didn't have many 4-star, 5-star reads. Many of them were meh. Many of them were just, um, I don't know, fillers. But there were a few gems that I will definitely share and talk about. Let's start with my lowest rated read, which was Yearn by Rose Taylor. This is an age gap romance between an older black woman and a younger white man. Right out of the gate, this read was entertaining. There were some funny moments, there were some purely outrageous, like, I can't believe this is transpiring moments. And there were some cringy moments as well. Dominic is a 25-year-old medical student who could have rented a place from anywhere. And it becomes very quickly known why he chooses to rent a basement apartment from Tayana, who is a 40-year-old woman raising 2 kids and going through a divorce. Things, of course, transpire, they get closer, things get rated TVMA, and their intimacy includes voyeurism, lactation, kink, and mommy good boy praising. So I have never read a book with that combination of things, and I have not read something where the lactation, like the stimulation to lactate was done. So that is uh the romance, the erotica plot situation. But I enjoy the drama, the again, the outrageous things that were happening in the story. Those were interesting. I also enjoy, and I think this was probably the best part, the best written relationship in the book was between Tayana and her friends. Tayana's friends felt very authentic. They were supportive of her trying to get her groove back, but also trying to keep her grounded. And I felt like that their relationship was the best in this book, and their relationship felt more grounded than what Tayana and Dominic had going on. There were decisions being made by Dominic that I could not see a middle aged woman, especially a middle aged black woman, allowing to take place in her home with her kids around. So, those were the unbelievable moments. It did take me a little longer to finish this, especially because Dominic kept giving these full length mechanical biological TED talks on how arousal worked. And there was this weird highlighting by the author of a background character I really don't think they added anything to the story. They were like really creepy, really weird. Overall, this was entertaining, definitely rememberable, and I do think the overall plot of the story and point of the story is that you can be desirable at any age. It's never too late to get your groove back, even after disappointments and heartbreak. My next lowest rated read was The Wrath by Tierra Cox. So this is a paranormal romance, and it was another read that was short. It stood out to me scrolling through Kindle Unlimited, and I kind of know what I'm getting myself into when I pick these shorter reads. So the plot is a college professor, Isani. She teaches the natural sciences at a local community college, and a new professor starts at the college who has this very magnetic, mysterious presence. His family founded the town, and of course, they run into each other and things blossom from there. But also, Isani begins to have these strange dreams. She feels like someone's watching her at all times. You know, right? So I knew what I was expecting getting into this. There was not much um, depth in the development of the romance. I didn't like that uh, Elias. I feel like that's maybe how you say his name. It's Alois. It's French. I probably am saying it wrong. But on the part of the male main character, there was a lot of love bombing from him. Didn't feel, it didn't feel real. I know this is fiction, but it didn't feel real. And there were a lot of repetitive moments that just felt like fillers to um, make the book longer. All that said, the ending did have a bit of a twist that caught me off guard. I do appreciate that the story did try to give something that was unexpected to wrap things up. Now, I love me a time travel romance, especially ones where the women from the modern world don't just fall in line because the big, buff man swinging an axe tells them to do so. Dr. Kenna is a doctor from modern times, and she leaves the hospital one night distraught over what has transpired that day, and she parks at a local park or whatever and is suddenly ripped through space and time. She ends up in 17th century Scotland, where she's discovered by members of the MacDonald clan and taken prisoner by their war leader, Ewan. Her medical knowledge, along with the tools that she happened to have with her, are immediately seen as black magic. And because of her ethnicity, she's black, and her knowledge, Dr. Kenna is seen as a threat, even as a demon. Out of all of the time travel romances that I have read, this one was easily the bleakest. Dr. Kenna did not have much, if any, plot armor. She experienced some very serious things, and the story, the author did not sugarcoat those moments. So I definitely found it different that the author didn't romanticize the time period and the things that these various clans were doing and participating in. uh, Dr. Kenna had to faced multiple challenges, and the clan did not magically accept her overnight like many of these time travel romances have happened. Uh, One thing I would have liked to see is there being more page space used to allow Dr. Kenna to work through these traumatic moments that she experienced. There was an attempt to do so, but the book either needed to be longer or it needed to be at least a duology. This was also classified as a romance. I would not say that the romance in here was romancing at all. In fact, there is very little emotional and physical connection between Dr. Kenna and her love interest for the majority of and love interest, okay, for the majority of the story. Next up is my Revenant, Devil, and the Rabbit. This story revolves around a pair of quote unquote broken boys. They are obsessive, possessive, and morally gray characters dealing with lots of things, including trauma. The story is mostly told from Jonah's perspective. It moves between the past and present, and through Jonah's POV, you'll slowly learn why he's on the run. Jonah is a former athlete who had a very promising track career until he was hit by a car, suffering a serious injury. Because of this, Jonah carries a lot of pent up anger and grief. So enters Dex, one of the town's bad boys. Dex sees this sadness, sees this anger, sees this loneliness in Jonah. Jonah and Dex's relationship becomes very intense very quickly, and they essentially becomes each other's entire world. This leads to some very serious consequences, especially once Jonah gets pulled into Dex's world. Dex is also a part of a motorcycle gang. I thought that their relationship was a very good example of how real a relationship can get when one or both of the couple has yet to heal or go through healing for the things that they have been through. Again, these two became very dependent on one another, and that led to some very serious consequences. My only critique is that I didn't feel like this was a true motorcycle romance or that Dex was a true MC member. I think that this was a strong introduction to this series by this author, though I don't plan to continue it. I also read The Night Guest by Marina Scott. So Nina Wilson is drowning in grief, in debt, and trying to figure out how to keep her remaining family together. Her father has recently passed, her twin isn't around, her mother's mental health has rapidly declined, and her engagement is broken. So, emotionally, financially, socially, everything has collapsed. One evening, Nina and her mother attend a seance led by a mysterious and charismatic Leroy Marshall, who is new in town. Nina's mother desperately wants to hear from her dead husband, and Leroy delivers a message. But instead of comforting her, it makes things worse. Nina invites Leroy into their home in the hopes that he can help stabilize her mother And from there, everything spirals out of control. The dynamic between these characters reminded me of that movie with Matthew Good. Let me look it up real quick. It's called Stoker. So this book kind of has that vibe. By the end of it, I still had some questions that I didn't feel like were answered. But overall, it was a solid gothic read. So here are my highest rated reads for the month of January. The first one is one I actually picked up last year in a reading vlog, and it is Midnight Rooms by Danye Coles. This cover is stunning. I feel like reflects, it gives you a sense of what you're getting into. It's beautiful. The descriptions, the imagery in this book is amazing. And it has this very hazy kind of I don't know. I'm look, I'm not an artist. This hazy look to it. And the quote at the top says, "A fever dream of a novel that readers won't want to wake up from." And I will say 100% I feel that that is true. This is a gothic novel through and through. Ominous, unsettling, layered with mystery and atmosphere. There is horror elements, but the horror is more psychological. The story is set in 1840s England and follows Orbella, the orphaned daughter of a white man and a black woman. She's been raised by her aunt and uncle, and from the start, it's clear she's only tolerated. Her aunt and uncle are approached by a man named Elias who offers to marry Orbella. And like many marriages of the time, this is purely transactional. And the way it was described, I imagine something similar to the Winchester House, which I one day hope to visit. Very early on, something happens to Orbella that causes her and myself to question her reliability. Midnight Rooms leaves it up to the reader to figure out if something supernatural is happening or if something far more human and manipulative is at play. I think that Cole succeeded in making a very hallucinatory and horror fairy tale type of environment. I did have some questions at the end of this that I feel like Orabella contributed to being unanswered because of how passive she was at times. When I finished this, I felt conflicted and slightly confused, but also unable to stop thinking about it. I even went online to see if there were others that felt the way I did, and there were a lot of comments or reviews that shared the same mixed reaction. And honestly, I think that that feeling, that unableness, is that a word? To stop, to not be able to stop thinking about this book might be its greatest accomplishment. Would I reread this? I think so. Possibly to see if I can catch something else or interpret something else differently. Would I read more from this author? Maybe. I don't know if I want to have that fever dream feeling. Actually, no, I can't even say that. The fact that she was able to make me feel like I was losing it with Orabella was pretty cool. That was a plus. I guess what I don't want is having finished another book of hers and having so many things left to interpretation or some questions not clearly answered, you know? She does, Danya Coles, she does have another book coming out later this year called The Sunken and the Adored, that's set in the same universe. And I'm considering it. I would definitely, let me show y'all again. I would definitely recommend Midnight Rooms. Just know what you're getting yourself into. My highest rated read for January was Willing Prey by Ali Oyelander. I'm not 100% confident that I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but what I am confident about is that she understood the assignment. Willing Prey is a primal play romance. It was fun, it was spicy, surprisingly thoughtful, and most importantly, it never crossed into cringe territory, which is something that books in this category can do. The story follows Claire, who is a phys ed teacher who is recently divorced, heading into the summer break, and for the summer, she needs to find work ASAP. Enter Shane, who is a lawyer and approaches her with a very specific, a very transactional proposition. He wants a partner for primal play. His offer: if she agrees to a 30-day arrangement, he will pay her a very nice chunk of change. There are rules. There is a contract. There is a safe word. No muss, no fuss, just lust. Claire is not new to this world at all. She knows herself, she knows her limits, and she goes all in making this arrangement mutually satisfying. I like that Shane's POV was shared as well. In his POV, he navigates this arrangement and the budding intimacy between him and Claire. The chase initially began about catching Claire, though later it becomes about catching feelings. The author did do a great job, in my opinion, in keeping the story and the characters interesting while delivering exactly what I picked her book up for. If you're looking to take a run on the wild side, I would definitely recommend this. After all of the intensity of January, I went into February on a much lighter note. I didn't even have a set TBR. The first read that I checked out from Kindle Unlimited was The Black Wife Effect. So it started off very strong, very promising, but as I went on, I kind of lost interest. I finished it as I usually do, but it didn't turn out the way that, I would have hoped it would have. Uh, the romance was supposed to have a slow burn element, but it wasn't slow burning at all. The main character, Tamantha, is a matchmaker who just started her business, and she gets a request from a potential client. This client is looking for a woman to pose as his wife. Will, when he meets Tamantha, was so enamored, so enraptured that he proposes to her to be his wife, for this business deal that he's trying to get sealed. He convinces Tamantha with a hefty investment, and off Tamantha goes to Paris. I enjoyed this next read, Champagne Kisses. It was sweet and character driven. It's the first book of a series about brothers who fall in love. I've only read the first book. I'm only planning to read the first book, but I definitely think it's worth checking out if you are interested in a series where it's siblings, various siblings and they're falling in love. In this particular book, Adam Parker is a bachelor. He doesn't really see himself getting married. He doesn't do relationships. He's been named the best man and is in charge of getting the wedding favors. He reaches out to Maya Davis, who runs her own small business specializing in customized gifts. When they meet in person, the meeting is very lackluster, and Maya is left with the impression that Adam did not like her. And eventually they meet again, and she learns that he very much did like her. They both had things they needed to work on to make their relationship work, and this book ends in a happily ever after. My lowest rated read of February was The Unwritten Bond by June Ever. This is supposed to be an Omega romance where the main character attracts the attention and bonding of three alphas. I thought this was going to be a quick, short, hanky panky type read, but it ended up being very, very long. I actually started it back in January. I didn't count it part of January because I didn't finish it until February. It ended up having a lot of redundant scenes um, that I felt were just there to make the book longer. And on to the highest rated read, my most enjoyed for the month of February, which was The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan E. Fueco. Shout out to Miss Kim for recommending this to me. This book saved February for me. So, Small Sade is a young woman navigating survival in a society that has already decided what she's worth and what she can do. Sade needs a job, preferably as a maid, with employers who don't mind her unique appearance and her unlucky foot. Sade has had a tough childhood due to the treatment of others because she lives with vitiligo, which is a skin condition where the immune system attacks melanin. She is also disabled and has had to adapt and has accepted what society says she can do. In her search for a job, she accidentally binds herself to a powerful god known as the crocodile. In her binding with the crocodile, she shares that she has this sort of spiritual ability. The crocodile warns her that their fates are bound, and he also sees potential in Sade, but she evades him and eventually finds a job as a maid. Because of the manipulations and schemes of others and the balancing of some scales, Sade cannot stay small Sade forever and eventually must answer her calling. I partially listened to this book via Hoopla, and I also read it. The narrator, the audio experience, top tier, and I would pick up the audio book where there were words that I was struggling with, and this book is also slower paced, but I didn't think that took away from the story at all. I really got into the day to day of Small Sade, and you see how things are gradually changing, and the fact that Sade has to rise to the occasion. Um, and then I like that she even breaks the third wall. Is it the fourth wall? It's one of those numbers. As she's telling her story, that was really cool. The author really took her time to set up the scenery, the imagery for the diverse land that small Sade hailed from, descriptions of the various ethnic populations, and setting up the society, the various classes, and the mythology. Speaking on the mythology, I was concerned I wasn't going to grasp it because The Maid and the Crocodile is a novel that is a part of a larger series called the Ray Bearer series. It was said that you didn't have to read the Ray Bearer series in order to get into this book, which held true. I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. I do feel like the author really explained the society, the magical system very well without having read the main series. I wasn't expecting the bit of romance in this book. The romance is slow burning, patient, understanding, and you can't help but root for Sade and her happily ever after. Through Sade, the author conveys messages about social commentary on class and labor, capitalism, challenging the systems around you, and learning to unlearn the limits placed on you by others and yourself. The Maid and the Crocodile is a young adult read, but I really do think it's worthwhile regardless of age. Overall, January was intense and dark and very gothic. February was a mixed bag of vibes, but definitely ended on a high note. If you're still here, thanks for tuning in. I can't promise that I won't get this far behind again. We'll see how that goes. But thank you guys for tuning in for another video. As always, let me know down below what you're reading. Even if it's a textbook for a class you're taking. Okay, let me know. Until next time, y'all stay safe, be blessed, and remain unapologetically you.